It is a great day to be an American. Welcome, everybody, to the Freedom Hub. On this episode, we are going to be talking about everything that has been going on with Texas in particular this past week. Now, before we get started, go ahead and check a link in the description. There is an article that has a list of charities on ways that you can help all of the people who were affected in Texas, Oklahoma, and Louisiana. Ways that you can help them stay warm, ways that you can help them get food. Because believe it or not, it's been over a week and some are still without power. So please check the link in the description. See if there is a charity that you can go ahead and donate to and help out all of those people who need it most. On today's episode, we are going to be talking about everything that occurred and the energy crisis that they are experiencing. We're going to talk about who's to blame for it. Now, you're kind of hearing it from both sides a little bit differently. I'm going to tell you exactly what happened and also, more importantly, what we can do to make sure that it doesn't happen again. Some may say that we need a Superman. We need a hero. Stick around and find out. Welcome, everybody, to the Freedom Hub. This is your destination for where everything all comes together, everything that we love about this country, whether it is firearms, nice, tasty whiskey, conservative values, or even more. It all comes together here at the Freedom Hub. If you like what you're seeing, go ahead and take a moment to like, subscribe, and go ahead and hit the bell and let freedom ring throughout the land. Now, on February 13th, a winter storm came through the central U.S. and mainly hit Texas and the surrounding states. Now, what it did is it dropped temperatures well below normal levels to what they are used to experiencing on a yearly basis. And it caused snow and ice buildup in places that haven't even seen that kind of weather since 1989 and haven't seen that kind of weather on a large, massive scale like this since the 1940s. It doesn't happen very often. So this caused massive power outages, lasting for days. Some people still do not have power or water, even over a week later. So that has led to boil alerts, hospitalizations, and sadly, even deaths. So, who's to blame for this? So, conservative media outlets pretty much blamed Texas's reliability on 23% of their power grid being on wind power, saying that wind power is unreliable. You only get it when the wind is blowing, and even then, it's not efficient. It doesn't build up as much energy as traditional fossil fuels. And they also say that the windmills they froze up. So, what do the Democrats say? The Democrats on CNN and MSNBC have been saying it's decades of science-denying leadership in the state of Texas that has led to this. And their governors and their representatives and their senators have all denied the existence of climate change for decades and therefore have not been preparing the state for an instance where climate change would devastate their state. They're also blaming it on Texas not using enough green energy because of the policies set in place by their leadership. Some of them even say that they had it coming because of decades and decades of being a true red state, that they just had it coming. Now, let me tell you this. Politics aside, we are all Americans. We all bleed red, white, and blue. And that's science. Nobody deserved this. Your neighbors did not deserve this. Your families did not deserve this. So, politics aside, what actually happened? So, there's a couple things. So, the winter storm obviously caused higher than anticipated demand for power because of people turning up their heat, people just using more energy to compensate for the fact that it was just so cold. Now, let me just show you exactly how the Texas power grid is supplied. So as you can see here, most of it is going to be from natural gas. And then you're going to see, wind power, nuclear, coal, and so on and so forth. So that is how the power grid is supplied, specifically for the Texas power grid. So what happened to those natural gas supplies? The natural gas wells froze, and it blocked the pipes, blocking the flow of natural gas. And so what happened to the coal? Well, the coal piles, the big piles of coal that they have at the coal plants, those froze up as well. And so when it freezes, instead of being a bunch of little rocks, it turns into one massive big rock. And you can't really move that. You can't use it in the systems that were built to use it. And it was, okay, so what happened to the wind turbines? What really happened? Well, they did freeze up. So wind turbines are made to withstand ice buildup by being sprayed with a coating that prevents that ice buildup. Wind turbines in Iowa, which experiences very harsh winters every year, they are treated with this liquid, this material, and it prevents the ice from really building up. But even if they hadn't had that material, the ice that would build up on these wind turbines in Iowa would be very, very thin, because those winter storms that go through there are very dry. It's a cold, dry air that comes down from Canada and goes through Iowa. So what happened to the ones in Texas? So Texas experienced that cold, dry air coming down, as well as the warmer, more humid air that comes up from the Gulf. Those mixed together and caused a whole bunch of ice buildup on those wind turbines, causing them to fail. So it could have been prevented by them spraying the propeller blades with that material that prevents the ice buildup. And I know you've probably seen it on the news, these helicopters in front of the turbines just spraying them and spraying them and spraying them. That's what they're trying to do. It could have been prevented, but it's expensive, very expensive. And also for Texas, it would be a highly unlikely occurrence. Now, like I said before, they haven't experienced any temperatures like this since 1989. That was the year that my youngest brother was born, was in 1989, and he will be 32 this year. So not exactly a little kid anymore. So it's been that long since they've experienced any sort of winters this harsh in Texas. And like I also said before, not on a large scale. That was back in the 40s, long time ago, just after the Dust Bowl, World War II. So that the natural gas, the lines freezing up, the coal piles freezing up, the wind turbines freezing up. Those are the sources of power that actually failed. So, what happened to the remaining power plants? Well, those remaining power grids were overloaded due to the high demand and that power being spread so thin. So, what the procedure is in these power plants is to start rolling blackouts, something that you all know from the news about California and all the rolling blackouts that they do during the summers because they're afraid of the power lines causing wildfires. It's common practice in California and now in Texas. So start the rolling blackouts. That way we can conserve the power that we have, dole it out little by little. That way we won't be too overwhelmed. That is their policy. So when they went to turn it back on, so shut everything down first, black it out, but then you turn it back on after a little while. And then you turn it back off, and then on, and then off. When they went to turn it back on, the demand was so high that it either automatically shut right back off or they manually shut it off because it was going to burn out that power grid. Now, if it had burned out that power grid, that's when it could take months to get that power grid back online. So in order to save that and not burn it out completely, they manually shut it off if it wasn't automatically shut off. So why couldn't Texas just pull its power from a neighboring state like Arkansas or from New Mexico? Why couldn't it just pull from there? Well, as you can see here on this chart, Texas's power grid is very independent. You have three main power grids in the United States in the lower 48. You have the West Coast power grid, you have the East Coast grid, and then you have Texas. Texas is its own thing. They're very energy independent. They create their own, and they're not affected by the other grids. And also because of that, they're not connected to those other grids, so they can't draw power from them even if they needed to. One of the terms that you more than likely have been hearing a lot of just within the past week or so is ERCOT. Now that's ERCOT. That is the Electric Reliability Council of Texas. And they are pretty much responsible for Texas's power grid. So when it came to the fact that people had been without power for over 24 hours with critically low temperatures, they were the ones you went to for answers. So they explained that because Texas can't pull power from those other two power grids in the United States, that is one of the reasons why they needed it. Everything that I already said before with power stations being overloaded and failing, and then not being able to draw the power before. They also said it was due to people living in places where the equipment was damaged. So those power stations that had failed and need to be fixed or rebuilt. It's also due to people living in areas that were taken offline and need to be put back online manually. Somebody needs to go there and flip the switch. And it's not exactly easy to get around Texas right now. They also said they blamed people who get their power from large industrial facilities that may have voluntarily gone offline to conserve energy. So people who get their power from not ERCOT. That kind of sounds like a business ploy to me. So let's talk about solutions. This cannot happen again. People were forced to live in very harsh weather conditions, as if they were cavemen, scrambling for fire so they could create light and heat. This is the 21st century. We're better than this. This cannot happen with increasingly stronger storms happening every year. We need kind of like an emergency generator for the country. The hurricanes that hit the Gulf Coast and the East Coast are getting stronger and stronger every year. Now, what causes it? You could say that's up for debate. You could say it's climate change. You could just say it's just happening. It is what it is. It's perfectly natural. That's another episode. But the fact that they're happening is a fact. You're getting more and more of them, and they get stronger and stronger every year. We're about due for our next Hurricane Katrina type episode. And the power grids fail during all of those as well, which is why I'm bringing them up. We've seen so much natural disaster, devastation just within the last few years, between California literally being on fire. Millions and millions of acres in California, more than ever this past year. The hurricanes, as I mentioned before, record flooding along the Mississippi Delta and the Mississippi River Valley. We need a generator for the country. So we're going to need a hero, as I said before. We're going to need a hero who has a plan. If you have any idea who that hero is, go ahead and leave a comment in the comment section. Let me know your ideas. Go ahead and pause the video. Comment. Who's the hero? Who's going to come and save us? Go ahead. The person that we need is a person that we already have, and that is Mr. Elon Musk. Personal hero of mine and American hero to boot. He recently moved his company to Texas after he had had enough of California's business regulations, California's astronomical tax hikes, California's draconian lockdowns, and other COVID mitigations. He actually figured out a way to solve the energy crisis in this country in 2015. 6 years ago. I mean, I could sit here and explain it, but go ahead. Hear it from him.
So what we're here to talk about is the solution. I actually think it's really a fairly obvious solution, but it's something that we need to do. And the solution is in two parts. Part one, the sun. we have this handy fusion reactor in the sky called the sun. Okay? You don't have to do anything. It just works. Shows up every day and produces ridiculous amounts of power. Okay? Now, a lot of people aren't clear on how much surface area is needed to generate enough power to completely get the United States off of fossil fuels. Most people have no idea. They think that it must be some huge amount of area, like maybe you need these satellites in space and like space solar power. If anyone should be in favor of space solar power, it should be me. But this is completely unnecessary because actually very little land is needed to get rid of all fossil fuel electricity generation in the United States. That blue square there is the land area that's needed to transition the United States to a zero carbon electricity situation. It's really not much. And most of that area is going to be in rooftops. So you won't need to disturb land, you won't need to find new areas. It's mostly just going to be on the roofs of existing homes and buildings. So I really think that image is an important one to bear in mind when people are thinking about solar power. Like, how much will it take? Is it going to take some enormous amount? No, it's just that blue square. Okay. Blue square. Now, the obvious problem with solar power is that the sun does not shine at night. So I think most people are aware of this. So this problem needs to be solved. We need to store the energy that is generated during the day so that you can use it at night. And also, even during the day, the energy generation varies. There's a lot more energy generated in the middle of the day than at dawn or dusk. So it's very important to smooth out that energy generation and retain enough so that you can use it at night. So, now, what you may not have noticed in that earlier slide where I showed the blue square was that there was one red pixel. Okay, in the blue square was a red pixel. Now it's zoomed in so you can see that red pixel. That is the size of the batteries needed to transition all of the United States to being solar with batteries. Okay, it is a very tiny amount. Okay, 1 pixel. Just remember that. 1 pixel is the size of the batteries needed for the United States to have no fossil fuel generated electricity. This is no room at all. So, not a problem for solar or batteries. Now, the issue with existing batteries is that they suck. Okay, they're really horrible. They look like that. They're expensive. They're unreliable. They're sort of stinky, ugly, bad in every way. Very expensive. You have to get some sort of, you need to combine multiple systems. There's not one integrated place you can go and buy a battery that just works, which is what people really want to buy. So we have to come up with a solution. That's the missing piece. That's the thing that's needed to have a proper transition to a sustainable energy world. So the missing piece is what we're going to show you tonight.
So after that, he goes on, of course, to introduce the Tesla Powerwall. Now, if you're not familiar with it, and you weren't paying attention a whole lot when he was explaining, but basically what the Powerwall does is it draws energy from the power grid as well as solar power or whatever else you have hooked up to it. It can do this at a rate that you decide. So if you're just pulling power from the grid, you could say, okay, well, take, only 2% more than what I'm using and put that in the battery. If you do the solar power, you could say, okay, well, the solar power all goes to the battery, the grid I will use. It stockpiles this throughout the day. And, once it gets to 100%, you got some options. Now, most people use a lot more electricity at night because it's darker and you need light. Or it's a little bit colder once the sun goes down, you need a little bit of heat. So using that power from the battery rather than from the grid is going to save you a lot of money on your electric bill. So that's the Powerwall for you. But, what is the solution for Texas? What am I getting at here? Am I talking about a Powerwall in every household? That would be awesome, but it's not what's needed. But Elon, he built something for a much, much larger scale.
But what about something that scales to much, much larger levels? So for that, we have something else. So we have the Power Pack. So the Tesla Power Pack is designed to scale infinitely. So you literally make this into a gigawatt-hour class solution. You could go gigawatt class or higher. And in fact, we already have one utility that wants to do a 250 megawatt hour installation just using the Power Pack. I think it would be a good idea, this would be a good time to transition the power that we're using in the building to being battery powered, of course. So let's go to the camera feed to, let's go check out the power meter. Oh wow, the grid, it's actually 0. This entire night has been powered by batteries. Not only that, the batteries were charged by the solar panels on the roof of this building. So this entire night, everything you're experiencing is stored sunlight. So when I say scalable, I really mean scalable. We can do gigawatt class installations with the Power Pack. The whole system is designed, it's literally designed for infinite scalability. So we could power a small city like Boulder with a gigawatt hour class pack, and we can keep going here. So what I want to do is explore what is needed, what's really needed to transition the world to sustainable energy. Is this actually possible? Is it something that is within the ability of humanity to actually do, or is it some insurmountable, super difficult, impossible thing? It's not. So with 160 million power packs, you can transition the United States. Okay? With 900 million, you can transition the world. You can basically make all electricity generation in the world renewable. And primarily solar, which will be. So, and then going a little further, if you wanted to transition all transport and all electricity generation and all heating to renewable, you need approximately 2 billion power packs. Now that may seem like an insane number, and I'm very tempted to do the billion thing, but restrain my hand. But in order to, it's like 2 billion power packs. Is that a crazy number? Is that an impossible number? It is not, in fact. The number of cars and trucks that we have on the road is approximately 2 billion. And every 20 years approximately, that gets refreshed. There's 100 million new cars and trucks made every year. So the point I want to make is that this is actually within the power of humanity to do. We have done things like this before. And so it's not impossible. It is really something that we can do. In fact, it's something that obviously we're starting to do with Gigafactory 1. Yeah. So the way we're approaching the Gigafactory is really like it's a product. So we're not really thinking of it in the traditional way that people think of as a factory, like a building with a bunch of sort of off-the-shelf equipment in it. What we're really designing in the Gigafactory is a giant machine. It's really, think of it like, it's like a product of Tesla. We're making this really big product that doesn't happen to move, but it's really big. And that's what we're doing, is Gigafactory version 1. And we're building that in Nevada right now. And there will need to be many gigafactories in the future. And with I do want to emphasize that this is not something that we think Tesla's going to do alone. We think there's going to need to be many other companies building sort of gigafactory class operations of their own, and we hope they do. And the Tesla policy of open sourcing the patents will continue for the Gigafactory and for the Power Pack and for all these other things. So we want to show people, most importantly, that this is possible. That if you look at that's the future we could have, where the curve slowly rolls over and goes to zero, no incremental CO2. That's the future we need to have, and that's something that and the path that I've talked about, the solar panels and the batteries. It's the only path that I know that can do this, and I think it's something that we must do, and we can do and that we will do.
So in conclusion, I'm inclined to believe him. I really am. I mean, a lot of people doubted him there at the beginning, and he's gone on to prove people wrong in quite a number of occurrences. So people say that renewable energy is not efficient enough and it is unreliable, and that's why we're not using it. Well, they said the same thing about the electric car not too long ago. And look what Elon Musk did with Tesla. He provided an electric car that could outperform most any other gas-powered car and still hold a range of 300 miles or more. That's kind of amazing. He proved people wrong. And anybody that I've ever seen drive a Tesla, or anybody that I know that drives a Tesla, has all told me the same thing. It's fun. It is fun to drive. When was the last time you got in your Ford Taurus and it was like, yeah, this is fun to drive? Yeah, not very often. What about these systems that he's talking about? Well, these systems are already being implemented on multiple islands in the Pacific, as well as southern Australia. That keynote speech that I was showing came out in 2015. It is just the beginning of 2021, and they've been implemented, and they're working. And they've already had occurrences due to like tsunamis and earthquakes over there where they've had to draw off of them. They draw off of the power stacks. And it's worked. It's working just fine. Elon brought America back to the forefront of space exploration, space travel with SpaceX. He made it so Americans were being launched from America once again, and that we had the latest and greatest, highest technology vehicles to carry Americans back and forth from orbit. He's going to put us back on the moon, and by the end of the decade, he's going to put us on Mars. The guy's got plans. I love it when you see a billionaire playing with his money. It's kind of cool. It's kind of like a superhero. Kind of like Bruce Wayne. His superpower was being rich. And he bought a lot of really cool toys and did a lot of really cool things. So I really do think that because this technology already exists and because it was developed by somebody like Elon Musk, a great American and a great Texan, I really think he can fix this. I'd like to go ahead and thank all of our law enforcement, all of our first responders, all of our veterans, and our active military. Thank you all for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring that bell to let freedom ring throughout the land. If you want to see more, you can see us on Facebook at The Freedom Hub USA, Instagram at The Freedom Hub USA, and of course on the official website, thefreedomhub.net. Thank you all for watching. We'll see you next time.